I thought I would start out this podcast by doing something a little different where I would play some music and then get a little survey of like what your impression of this kind of music is. Like how does it?
It should be kind of like the Rorschach.
It's a Rorschach. It's a
Rorschach.
It's a Rorschach test. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So
this is an audio Rorschach test.
Like,
oh, now I'm nervous.
You're the one that's going to be interpreting it, not us. So.
That's true. But you're going to be interpreting what I interpret it as.
So I'll take a survey of both of you guys.
Okay.
So here's the first one.
Oh. Yes.
So what do you guys think? How does that make you feel?
It's happy. It reminds me of spring.
Yeah. What about you, Carolyn? What do you think?
My Little Pony.
My Little Pony, yeah.
Totally like Pinkie Pie, Starlight
Yes.
Pony,
Right.
running through the woods. And
Exactly.
Oh, for sure.
The name of that song is Always Happy.
see?
Makes sense.
All right, let me cue up the second one. Mom, I'm going off to war.
That's
Right?
1917.
Yeah, exactly.
In a world
Yes.
turned upside down by the pandemic.
Wow.
One pandemic to change them all. So that's a good one. I like that one. All right. And then this is the third one. Let me know. Oh, that one is called Run the World.
Run the world.
All right, here's the third one.
Well, that's tension.
Oh, yeah. Time's running out.
Uh-huh.
Which wire? The blue wire or the red wire?
Yes.
I think it gets worse in this next part.
Depression.
Did you stay up late at night worrying about what's happening in the world?
Trapped in a maze. That's it.
Yeah. Oh, Trapped in a Maze. That's good. So that one is called Deadline.
Yeah, that's... Yeah.
What does this say about us?
Yeah. So
Jeffrey?
one of the things I wanted to, one of the things that I got from looking up these songs was there's actually an entire music library that we use for this show. And basically you can search for moods and tones and stuff like that. And it'll give you stuff like this. And I thought it was really interesting that there's enough universal feeling, not just with music, but also a relatable experience between people that they can all kind of relate. Like, yes, that's a tense song, or yes, that's an epic song.
For sure.
Which kind of leads to our subject for today, which is stress.
Yes. Stress. Welcome to the Healthy You podcast from North Shore University Health System, where we explore trending topics in healthcare. I'm Carolyn Starks.
And I'm Jon Hillenbrand.
Today we're going to talk about, for many of us, how this pandemic has kind of become a mental health crisis. It's like this chronic force that is relentless and we see no end in sight. So what type of self-care is realistic that we can do for ourselves to help pull us out of this and help get us on the right path and clear our minds and feel less stressful? So with us today is Jeffrey Sholemson. He's a mental health therapist here at North Shore. Welcome to the podcast, Jeffrey.
Thanks, Carolyn.
And what do you do at North Shore?
So at North Shore, I'm a therapist in one of our outpatient psychiatric programs. I work in the outpatient partial hospitalization program, which provides skills and psychiatric education to different patients who are going through some kind of psych crisis in their lives.
Well, how is business?
Well, the pandemic certainly has turned everybody's lives upside down. And I think, you look around, you read things in the paper, you see things online, you see news stories. Everybody is on edge these days. We have a lot of polarization in the world. We have a global pandemic. We have a global recession. And we get mixed messages from all over the place. And nobody knows how or when any of this is going to change. And people are really on edge as a result.
Do you see a majority of your work being done around this, the pandemic and other stressors?
Yeah, I think there's kind of a combination of both. I think that there are two kinds of patients that have come to us more recently. There are those folks who are more anxious and more on edge strictly because of the pandemic and the stuff that has happened as a result. And then we have people who may have had underlying stressors or depression or anxiety, and the circumstances of today's world have only increased that problem.
So give us an idea of how stress or anxiety is affecting people, like specifically.
Stress, it does a number on our bodies. It releases chemicals into our bodies that can affect cardiovascular problems, weight gain. It can increase other symptoms of other illnesses. And from a psychiatric perspective, that's really where it gets us, right? It can make us have problems functioning on a daily basis. We lose motivation or energy to do our jobs. We become short-tempered with the people we love the most. Many of us isolate or shut down. You hear people talking about binging on Netflix or Amazon Prime. It just gets even worse because people don't want to leave their houses. People are afraid to go out into the world. And then when you exacerbate that, or when it gets exacerbated by all the tensions of daily living, money, food, homeschooling, working from home, it just becomes a plague that really pushes people down emotionally to the point that they're not able to do the things that they want to do or that they need to do.
I'd really want people to feel recognized and that their symptoms are recognized.
Sure.
So some people, if they may be feeling stress for the first time or anxiety, and that kind of meter goes over to the right or far right,
Yeah.
where I'm feeling really weird out-of-body experiences, how could we make them feel this is stress and anxiety, you're not going crazy? What are they actually feeling?
So that's a great question. And first and foremost, it's important that people know they are not alone in this. Everybody feels stress from time to time. Everybody feels sad or anxious from time to time. Today's world, even more people are feeling that way. But when we feel like we're having trouble sleeping or our appetite gets changed in some way, we get hungry all the time or we're not hungry at all, when we feel restless or keyed up or on edge, clenching our muscles, these are really, really common symptoms of anxiety, along with things that we might recognize, like worrying all the time about every little thing, not just one topic, or worrying about one topic over and over and over to the point that it's debilitating to you. These are things that we can recognize as everyday symptoms of anxiety or depression. When it gets even more intense in somebody, they might start to feel panic. And that's when you might feel like your heart is beating so fast, you can't catch your breath. You feel like you're losing control, or you might be going crazy, quote unquote, or sometimes you feel like you're dying. Those also are symptoms of panic, which is an offshoot of anxiety.
What do you tell your patients when they're feeling like that? Don't worry, you're not going to be...
Stop feeling that way.
Just stop it.
Yeah.
That would probably be one of the worst things we could do, right? 'Cause
Right.
It's like, how do we turn that off automatically? But what we do tell them is that, first of all, this is very natural. This is understandable. Everybody feels this. And there are things that we can do to change our situation. Either psychiatrically, like we can do some cognitive behavioral therapy exercises, we can do some relaxation or mindfulness exercises, or we can even change what we're doing in that moment. Get out, take a walk for a little while. That will decrease your stress. The stress might be waning when you return, but for a brief period of time at least, you've gotten to another place where you are able to just focus on something else.
So I went skydiving twice in my life.
Wow.
And the first time I did it, it was a complete peer pressure situation, which is not like me at all. I don't do peer pressure. But in this case, all my friends were going. And so I figured like, okay, I'll go. And even though when I was there waiting for like 3 hours for the plane to like get there, I kept thinking like, okay, this is all an opportunity for me to not do this. But I did it anyway. Went up in the plane, 13,500 feet. They put you in the suit. They tell you everything that you're supposed to do. They give you these little hand movements. And then they hook you up to the guy who's going to tandem jump with you. And you go up to the door, which is much bigger than you imagine an airplane door would be. And the ground is just a patchwork. you don't see any real detail,
right?
At least where we were. There's no mountains. It's just like a quilt. And then you don't really jump out. You fall out of the airplane. You just kind of like kneel in front of the door, and then that's it. You just use gravity to like,
whoa.
Yeah. And my initial thought was that I had made a mistake, like that I had fallen. Like when you trip and you're like, oh, I'm falling, and I needed to get back in the plane.
Right.
And we actually tumbled so that I could see the plane retreating at like 130 miles an hour behind me. And I had this overwhelming panic feeling. And then like within a heartbeat after that, I thought the only way to get through this without freaking out is to get through it, is to just experience it, to go through the whole thing, to do the little hand moves that they taught you, and then get on the ground the normal way, like through the parachute.
Wow.
But my animal brain was almost like, okay, this is it, just get back in the plane. But it was too late.
And it was definitely too late as you're tumbling
Definitely too
out
late.
of the sky.
Yeah, tumbling.
That is literally a metaphor for my life every day.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because the primary job of our brain, right, is to keep our bodies functioning, right?
And safe,
And safe, right? And two of the ways that they do that is to generate thought and respond to stimuli, right?
Right.
We can't control the thoughts that pop into your head, right? Because, for example, as I said that, I just started thinking about fried chicken. Right. But I can, which is true.
Wait, what?
Interesting. Yeah.
It's always about food with me.
All right.
But I can't control that I thought about fried chicken. I can control how I respond to that thought. So I continue talking to you instead of getting up and running out and going to the chicken shack on Ridge.
Right.
Which would probably be delicious, but not appropriate, right? But when we're in those moments where we are so upside down with tension and stress and anxiety, we forget, right? So say, stop thinking that. That's just not possible. What I can do is take steps to decrease that anxiety. One of the things that you can do is try and ground yourself to the present reality, which can be a great way to bring you back to the here and now. It's a very mindful practice. And it's actually something that you can do without much training. You don't need any materials. You can just do it right here, right now, essentially.
Let's take people through it then.
Perfect.
Our listeners.
One thing you can do is sit down, ground yourself physically, put your feet on the ground, kind of perpendicular, make a right angle with your legs and your knees.
All right, I'm doing it right now.
And hands on your thighs, or you could do just kind of, hands across your belly, whichever you prefer. And take a deep breath, exhale, and then just start looking around and identify 5 things that you can see right here. So we're in the studio. I could say the computer that Jon has, the microphone in front of me, Carolyn's scarf, the door with the handle, and then it looks like some pliers against the wall, right? That's 5 things I can see. And then I would go down from 5 to 4. What are 4 things that I can hear? Well, I can hear Jon saying, I can hear my own voice in the headphones. I can hear the rustling of my hand on my jeans. I can hear the snap that Carolyn is making, that Jon is making, excuse me. I can hear somebody's laughter, right? And then I go down another number. What are 3 things that I can smell, right?
Hopefully not, Carolyn.
What? What is happening?
So you can, what are 3 things you can smell? You can smell kind of like the air in the room. You can smell somebody's perfume, or if there's a dog, you can smell a dog smell. Probably there's a scent associated with the microphone.
Yeah,
or
the technology.
The technology, the foam, soundproofing material that has a scent too. And then you go down another number. What are 2 things you can touch? I can touch the wooden chair arms, the metal chair arms. I can touch my ever-decreasing hairline. And then one thing that I can taste. And, I won't start chewing. I have candy in my bag, but I could taste the Twizzlers in my bag.
I like that.
And yeah, please.
So people can do this even if they're in a meeting.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It might be difficult to kind of close your eyes and take that time, but you could absolutely say, here I am. It's Monday, September 21st, 2020. It is 2:27 p.m. I am in room 1706 of Evanston Hospital. I'm sitting here with Jon and Carolyn. That's a way to ground yourself if you can't do those five senses, right? You also can ground yourself by recognizing your surroundings, like I was just saying. And one of the things that I really like about it is that it's easy to do, and I can take it wherever I go. In fact, I think when we were talking the other day, Carolyn, I was saying to you that I love to travel, and whenever I travel to a foreign city, I ground myself wherever I go because it's just a really cool way to just be present and in the moment without my phone out, without the camera out, without looking to take the next picture. Take a deep breath, exhale. Where am I? What do I see? What do I hear? What do the people look like? And it just brings me back into the moment so that instead of my brain running at 150 miles an hour, I'm just right here, right now.
Interesting.
That's a great exercise, and I think people should realize too that it's something you have to practice maybe over and over again, and don't expect it to be like magical at first. Maybe I mean,
absolutely. What I like to say to patients when we talk about this stuff is that if you use the skill and it doesn't make the situation worse, you've done it right. That it's about not making the moment more distressing for you. That it's at the very least about keeping it where it is.
I like that exercise because I feel that, we talked earlier and we were talking about deep breathing. And I feel all my anxiety I feel my blood pressure, and it's all in my heart. And when someone tells me just to breathe, it sort of feels like when someone says, just calm down.
Right.
So let's talk about the deep breathing exercises and what are they most beneficial for? The same situations?
So it can be. I think it's sometimes a little difficult to just stop that panic in the moment and say, okay, I'm going to deep breathe now. That maybe a little grounding can help. And then you can do some deep breathing. But it's great for just getting to everyday relaxation. It's great for staying in a calm mood when you're feeling your tension rising up. One of the things that the brain is not able to do is stay calm and anxious at the same time. So by calming ourselves down, we decrease the anxiety that we might feel.
Oh, that's interesting.
And it also helps with depression, of course, because they're so intricately linked with one another. So by doing deep breathing exercises, we're able to put ourselves into a mindset where we're getting to that Zen place.
Can we go through that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Because there was a certain amount of seconds.
Yes,
right?
yes. Very good memory.
Thanks.
So this is, again, the same thing, but instead of the hands on the legs, typically we interlock our hands and put them kind of right in the midsection, kind of at the diaphragm, because we're going to be breathing. And you start out by taking just a deep breath, blowing it out like that. And then you close. I like to recommend that people close their eyes when they do it because it just seems more relaxing. So I'll walk you guys through it.
Okay.
And I won't do it because it's hard to do deep breathing and speak at the same time.
Okay.
Got it.
So take a deep breath in and then just blow it all out. And then you're going to take a deep breath in through your nose to the count of 4. So deep breath in, 2, 3, 4. And then you're going to hold that breath to the count of 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then you slowly exhale through your mouth to the count of 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
It's interesting. It forces you to slow down.
It completely forces you to slow down. And I was tapping my foot as I was doing it because, counting to 8 is difficult for me some days. And
there's actually an application on my Garmin watch that does the same thing where it has the numbers and then it counts for you. So you have to watch it.
And these are very common through all the different apps. I certainly did not come up with this at all. But when you do this, typically people will do it for a rep of 4. You'll do it 4 times and then relax. And sometimes people will do it for another set of 4 or 2 more sets of 4. But you can't spend all day doing it, of course. But it does give you that opportunity, like you said, focus on yourself and calm down, because you can't 2, 3, 4 as opposed to slow. And the reason that your hands are interlocked, you really feel the rise and fall of your torso as you're taking in the breath and exhaling, which further causes the anxiety to decrease and the calmness to come over you.
If someone's trying to do this and it's like doesn't seem to be working at all, like, is there any tips, or are they doing it wrong? Or
That's a good question. I think that there's sometimes
because I found that the watch stresses me out. Because I'll look at my watch and I really should probably just take it off and look at it versus
1, 2.
Yeah, because then I feel like I'm trying to keep up with it and it doesn't slow down from my natural breathing.
Right. I think, kind of like we were saying before, Carolyn, about the 5 senses exercise, practice really helps. And learning kind of your body's own natural rhythms, right? Just focusing on the breath. And one of the things that happens oftentimes when people first start to do this is the thoughts come in and go out, and that's okay. They start thinking, oh, I just thought about my dog. I have to start all over. No, that's okay. Just come back to the breathing.
Right.
I love that.
Right? Because what happens when we do that is we get completely confused. But if you identified every single random thought you have during the day, there are thousands of them, and we just forget about them. We don't pay attention to most of them.
What's a good way that we can stop those negative thoughts, obsessive thoughts?
Yeah, like if there's a situation that you just can't control. I don't know if that's ever happened to anyone at home.
Oh, never to me. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah, it's a really good question. So one of the things that we can remind ourselves is that we tend to have thoughts that become kind of ruminative or obsessive. And part of the reason for that is because over time, when we have a certain stimulus, our brain goes right to that same spot, right? So if I'm afraid of birds, for a hypothetical example, I see a bird, that goes to that same spot that says run away from the bird, time and time again. And that's really just a reaction in our brain to the stimuli we're seeing, and that's due to the science that goes on in our body all the time.
Right.
So you could start by reminding yourself that, right? It's kind of like your car when it gets stuck in a ditch and the wheels just roll round and around and around and around. And what we want to do is kind of fill the hole in that ditch. And one of the best ways that we can do it is to just change our focus, to remind ourselves, all right, you're obsessing now. We're going to get up and we're going to go outside and we're going to take a 20-minute walk. Or we're going to get up and we're going to go outside, we're going to weed the garden for a half hour. Or, you know what? This is not working. You were going to start on making dinner. Let's get the vegetables out and start chopping them up. That'll give me something to think about. I can be present in the moment, pay attention to what I'm doing. And at least, again, for that period of time, I can stop myself from going down that road. Sometimes it doesn't really work, and you need to focus on something else. You know what? This is not working. Those 3 YouTube videos that I like, they always put me in a good mood. I'm going to go start watching them. It'll take me 16 minutes. I've timed it, and it's all good.
Maybe.
I like that.
Or to practice recognizing that you're doing that, because sometimes those can play kind of way in the background, and they're playing all day, and you don't realize it. If you're not that type of person, and to, force yourself to kind of recognize, I'm feeling anxious. What have I been thinking about that I'm not remembering? Like, or
and
recognizing.
And you backtrack the day, right? So I was chopping vegetables. Then before that, I was vacuuming. And then I was reading the paper. Oh, I read that we might be stuck inside all winter. Oh, yeah, that's what's making me anxious. Okay, so now I'm going to go outside and take a walk while I still can.
Right. Change the conversation.
Right, yeah, I'm going to change the conversation. So putting things in perspective can help. It's kind of like a reality testing, or asking yourself, challenging these thoughts. Is this thought real? Is it based in what's actually happening, or is it based on the story or the tape that I'm playing in my mind?
So how does somebody know when they need help from a therapist such as yourself?
It's a really, really good question. I think some people, they just know. They know that they are not functioning the way that they want to or that they have been in the past. They're not either doing the things they typically do or enjoy doing. They are not seeing friends. They're not going out. They're not able to get their job done in the way that they have in the past. Some people just shut down and they don't even realize that they have withdrawn from the world. And that's when friends or family, I always refer to it as like your A-list, that those people who can call you and say, Carolyn, you really need to talk to somebody, that you respond and say, okay, because you're the one telling me, I believe you. Right? Doctors also, they do screenings when you go see your primary care physician. They're asking those questions to see how you're doing. Also, if you notice, I'm not feeling great lately. I've been sad. I've been down a lot. I can't stop worrying. And it's not just about, the results of a medical test, or you just took the LSATs and you're stressed about that. But every day, the world is a scary place these days, and there's a lot of uncertainty in the world.
Plus, maybe we can remind people that maybe it's only one session. Maybe you're unsure and you give somebody a call and it's like one time you realize, oh, okay, maybe I didn't need a full, I don't know how many weeks, or maybe it's only a couple months.
Yeah. There's short-term therapy, there's longer-term therapy. There are very, many different formats and frameworks that therapists will use. And we, as a bunch, we try and tailor what we do with you to whatever your needs are. Sometimes just talking to a friend is actually all you need.
I think therapy is such a luxury. Where else can you go and have someone's undivided one-on-one attention? Somebody trained.
I have told many people throughout my career, it's all about just becoming the better version of who you want to be. There's no shame in going to a therapist. In fact, it's a sign that you want to be somebody. You want to be yourself, who you are meant to be, and therapy helps you get there. Sometimes it takes, a couple sessions. Sometimes it takes longer, but it's always worth it, as long as you put in the effort behind it and realize that sometimes you do have to do a little bit of the work on your own.
I like that.
I really was thinking about fried chicken.
What?
I read in this really interesting book called Surviving Survival that some people will react a different way depending on past traumas in their life, which is pretty obvious. I think everyone knows that. And the analogy they gave was like, normally if the dog pees on the floor, you would oh, Fido, I'm gonna, or whatever,
right?
Clean it up. And then, but if you're in the middle of preparing a wedding, and it's the wedding day and the dog pees on the white carpet and people are coming in 5 minutes, then you might kick the dog.
Right.
Or some people would. I would never do that, obviously. And then and then some people have this problem where every time the dog pees, they kick the dog because of some past trauma.
Right.
And so then they can't handle something as benign as a dog being on the carpet.
Right.
So what is that? I'm not sure what question I have, but how can people kind of get past trauma like that, which they may not even know why they're reacting a certain way?
Therapy is really the number one way. There are therapists out there who are trained in treating trauma and survival of trauma, and they go through an extensive, rigorous process to learn how to manage and help patients manage that experience. If somebody listening to this thinks that they have had a traumatic experience for which they need help, they should definitely contact somebody to receive a psychiatric evaluation or contact a therapist and start on that process, because trauma works its way into our lives in insidious, difficult ways. And really the only way to move past it is by getting some help for it, because it stays with us.
Yeah, even for many years and decades even.
Mm-hmm. And there are these studies out now. They have done studies on Holocaust survivors to see if DNA has changed as a result of the trauma in the succeeding generations, because it lives in our bodies.
Because of the epigenetics.
Exactly.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So, and it's there.
Yeah, the epigenetics is for people who don't know, and I'm not an expert on it, but I heard that there's things that your body does to make sure that the DNA is constantly maintained and repaired when general, damage happens to it. But if you're having a very stressful life, that process shuts down and your genes get more damaged naturally over time and they don't get repaired.
And that causes health issues, that causes functioning issues,
Right.
causes everyday life problems for us.
So your current stress can be passed on to your children.
Right. And so learning how to manage the stress, deep breathing, these grounding exercises, cognitive behavioral therapy, exercise is so important, right? Balanced diet, getting proper sleep, right?
That's hard for me.
I'm glad you mentioned those other things that are kind of like the umbrella, that people always hear, but they work, especially the exercise.
Well, and those are things we have complete control over, right? Despite what the world may be like, right? Pandemic, wintertime, 100-degree heat, whatever it is, you can go for a walk inside or outside. You can go, climb stairs to get some aerobics, right? You can choose what time you go to sleep and what time you wake up.
I like walking, and throughout the pandemic, when I was doing a lot of photos and stuff in the hospitals, I was walking every day, and throughout April and May, it really helped to just process all the emotion and stuff, negative and positive, because I was seeing a lot of positive things, but and also I got to a point where I stopped walking all the time, and then that was really hard. And I remember this phrase that's basically, a year from now, you'll thank yourself for starting today.
Right.
And I really like that phrase because then it gets me out there.
Well, and it does say, right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make the effort to really commit to changing myself.
Right.
Right. Watching what I eat, changing my diet or eating less junk food. Some of us in the current climate have chosen to order in every meal. Some of us have chosen to cook every meal and embark on not just the infamous sourdough starters, but I'm going to try and eat a more balanced meal. I'm going to try and go plant-based. I'm going to try and only, grill foods. Just different ways to get the nutrition in our bodies that is most efficient for us.
Yeah.
I think you brought a lot here in a short amount of time.
Thank you.
Will help people.
Is there a rating place someone can go if they want to get more information about getting therapy or that sort of thing, or just mindfulness or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. If you go to the northshore.org website, there, you navigate through to Department of Psychiatry or Department of Behavioral Health. That is certainly a good way. There are local area organizations like NAMI, the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill or for Mental Illness, that offers referrals. Or you can contact your own insurance provider, and they always have referrals that they can give to you based on your geographic location and your needs.
Perfect.
Awesome.
See you next week.
Yeah. Good luck.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks,
Thank you. Stay safe and stay healthy.
Sure. And remember, everybody, to stay safe, wear a mask, and thanks.
And thanks.
And thanks.
Now I'm ready for the stress music.
That you're only what they say. They don't want to see you leave the ground.